So for lesson 6, we're going to go through our first factoring piece, which is going to be GCF. So the first thing we want to do is we want to try to break down 8 into everything that multiplies to be 8. So if we look at it, we have 1 times 8, we have 2 times 4. So all of those things multiply to give us 8, and then we have an x. If we look at the 28, we have 1 and 28, we have 2 and 14, and we have 4 and 7. And then we're going to look to do is circle whatever the biggest number is that goes into each of them, and that's going to be our GCF. So as we do that, we end up with dividing both of those terms by that. So that's what's going to go outside our parenthesis, and then we figure out, well, 8x divided by 4 gives us 2x. They use a minus sign, so we do, and then 28 divided by 4 is 7. And that's going to be our GCF factoring for the first one. Remember, we can always check by distributing back in. If we distribute in, we should get back to the original one, which in this case we do. If you don't get back to the original, then you probably made a mistake. So next one, 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, and then it has 2 x's. For 32, we're 1 and 32, we are 2 and 16, we are 4 and 8, and I believe that is it. And then we have 1x. So out of those combinations, the biggest number that goes into both of them is going to be the 8. And then they also have an x in common. So we're going to divide everything by 8x. So our GCF goes out in front. 24 divided by 8 is 3. X squared divided by x is x. Plus 32 divided by 8 is 4. And then x divided by x cancels out. And there's our GCF factoring for the middle. In this one, where there are no numbers, well, the first one has 2 x's. The second one has 1x. So we're going to divide everything by x. And we end up with x on the outside. X squared divided by x gives us 1x minus, now here's where people tend to get themselves thrown off. X divided by x is not 0. X divided by x is 1. So when your GCF is the actual term, you got to make sure you use a placeholder. In this case, it's going to be a 1. As we go to the next one here, 10x squared, 35x minus 20. So now what we need to do is we need to find a GCF, something that goes into all of them. So 1 and 10, 2 and 5, x and x, 1 and 35, 5 and 7, and then x, and then 1 and 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5, and there's no x's in that one. So what's the biggest number that goes into both of them, or excuse me, into all 3 of them? Would be the 5. Now notice, 2 of them have x's, but not all of them do. So when not all of our terms have an x, we are not allowed to take out an x as a GCF. So 5 goes on the outside. 10x squared divided by 5 is 2x squared. Plus 35x divided by 5 is 7x. Minus 20 divided by 5 is 4. We go to the next one. 1 and 6. 2 and 3. X, x, x. 1 and 12. 2 and 6. 3 and 4. X and x. And then 1 and 3, excuse me. 1 and 3, and then x. So the biggest number I see that they all have in common is going to be a 3. And they also all have 1x in common. So our GCF here is going to be 3x across the board. So 6x cubed divided by 3x is 2x squared. Plus 12x squared divided by 3x is 4x. Minus 3x divided by 3x, again, does not give you 0. It gives you 1. And for the last one, we have 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4, and then 2 t's. And then we have 1 and 96. We have 2 and 48. 3 and 32.
Good morning.
Good morning. 4 and 24. We have 6 6 and 16. We have 8 and 12 and a t. So a lot of things go into that one. The biggest thing that goes into all of them is the 16. And then they each have 1 t. So we're going to divide everything by 16t, 16t. So our GCF is 16t on the outside. That leaves us with a negative t, plus 96 divided by 16 is 6, and there are no more t's, so we get negative t plus 6. So we go here, we end up with a 2, a 1 and a 2, a, got 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and an a. We have 1 and 18, 2 and 9, and 3 and 6, and no a. So, biggest thing that goes into all of it is a 2. Since they all don't have an a, we can't take an a out. So 2, then we end up with negative a squared plus 3a plus 6. Excuse me, plus 9. Sorry, not plus 6. Plus 9. So we have 1 and 5, x and x. Then we end up with 1 and 5. So obviously our GCF is going to be the 5, and there's no x's to take out here. So 5 goes on the outside. We get x squared minus 5 divided by 5 is 1. We have 1 and 4. We have 2 and 2 and 1 n. And then we just have 3 n's. So we're not going to take out a number GCF here, but we are going to be able to take out an n from both of these. So an n goes on the outside. We end up with 4 minus n squared back inside of our parentheses. And our last one, the tables below are the result of a multiplication problem. Find the GCF of each row and column and find what the binomials were originally multiplied together. So if we look here, the first row, x squared and negative 8x, we can take out an x. If we look at the bottom row, 5x and negative 40, we can take out a 5. As we go up top, x squared and 5x, we can take out an x. And then between negative 8x and negative 40, we can take out a negative 8. So we're kind of simplifying the process that we just went with. But if you start to GCF them and you should get the hang of it, you end up with x minus 8 was one of your parentheses, or one of your binomials, and x plus 5 was the other one that went into them. Now the reason we took out a negative 8 in that one is because both of those signs there were negative. If we look to the right here, 6x squared and 15x, well, between 6 and 15 we can take out a 3, and then we can take out an x between them. If we look at the bottom row, negative 8x and negative 20, they're both negative, so we know it's going to be negative something, and the biggest thing that goes into it is a negative 4. On the top here, 6x squared and negative 8x. Only one of them is negative, so we'll keep it a positive here. And the biggest thing that goes in is a 2x. And then between 15x and negative 20, the biggest thing that comes out of both of them is a positive 5. So we end up with 2x plus 5 and 3x minus 4 as our two binomials.